Hey guys! So, since the video yesterday, it has been 24 hours, and after coming around the tank and touching all the silicone, it is dry. So I am just going to do a quick wipe just to kind of get any of those stray. Okay. So first thing I'm gonna dump, I get this at the pet store, Petco, PetSmart. That's what's around me. That's what I know. Even when I lived in Jersey, but they have it out here now where I am in Kentucky. So I buy this Reptibark for the substrate to put on the floor. Now, it is not the best by itself when you try to keep up the humidity. So to discuss about ball pythons and their living situation. So as I briefly stated in the video, you can use any size tank when they are a baby, temporary. So I had bought the 40-gallon. Technically, I didn't buy it when I first got her. I had gotten a simple tank at first, but then I always wanted the lockable kind of tank. I'm struggling here. Lockable kind of tank, so that way she can't easily get out, and they don't like top opening tanks, because if you come from above to pick them up, they feel like it's a predator. So, you know, they can hiss, they can become scared and frightened, and it wouldn't be an enjoyable experience every time you go in there to take them out. And you want them to, you know, associate you and going into their tank with an enjoyable experience, or just good vibes all around. So I went with the double door tank, 40-gallon from, I think it was like Reptile Terrarium. You can find it in the pet stores. I forget the brand name, but I went with them, and it locks. You could even, can you? I think you can. I think you could buy a lock as well, and you could lock both doors if you wanted extra security, but you don't have to. It latches when you close it. So it's definitely not easy for them to get out. Now, the reason why you saw what looked like silver or tape on the front of the tank is because I also had learned to keep up with humidity and to keep it high to the level that they need. Glass tanks don't do the greatest at keeping it unless you block, you know, all the vents. Now, of course, you don't want to block all of them. You want them to be able to breathe. So I had blocked off the front vents that you saw there under the doors, and a huge majority of the top of the tank, because it's like this with the meshing up top, except for a little bit of spacing around her heat lamp. So their humidity needs to be upwards of around no less than 65 and as high as 80 or mid 80s. Now, of course, I've done research to kind of verify the ranges in humidity, but I've noticed each of my snakes take it differently, so they like their humidities, each of them at different ranges. So of course, you know, you could do your research at what level they like it, but of course they may want more, they may want less. But that's the range, roughly 65 to around mid 80s, the highest. And that's for both cold side and hot side of your tank. Same humidity range. Now, obviously with the heat, the humidity is going to go faster and drop from the hot side with the water evaporating with the heat. So you'll just have to stay on it. But with PVC tanks like this, it takes a couple days, depending on what kind of substrate you use. Now, as I mentioned, with this substrate alone, the Rectobark, it was horrible on keeping up with the humidity, which of course, trial and error. I didn't know about this until I did my own research. So then I learned about cocoa husk, which we are gonna now go and break apart and wet, so we can now dump cocoa husk into here and mix it. So just so she had enough, it took 2 bags of this Rectobark for this 4x2x2 tank. Her 40-gallon, it only needed the 1 bag. But this big thing needed 2. And now we're gonna go and mix the cocoa husk. So the cocoa husk here is this block I had bought from Home Depot, and it's not a horrible price. It's actually pretty great for this big whole block of a bag, and it's easy. Now I haven't done it, but I'd probably be wetting this entire bag just to break it. So my husband helps me out on breaking this block apart and getting this big bowl here started and filled. So we just basically fill the bowl and start dumping. Now it depends. It could take me 3 of those huge bowls until I'm satisfied with the amount of coconut husk in there, because I will mix and wet. Now the cocoa husk is what helps hold all the moisture to keep up with the humidity. So that has been helping me hold the humidity range at 2 to 3 days, depending on size of tank. The other tank that my ball python is in, it's been holding it for such a long time. But I still go in there every 2 to 3 days, just like the rest of them, and I'll mix his substrate, put the thermometers back in, see where it stands, and I'll spray it some more with, you know, my sprayer, and see if it needs any more moisture to keep his humidity going. Okay, so as you can tell, it's a little wet. There's some water in the bottom there, just from breaking it and starting to break it apart for the tank. I'm just gonna go over here, and we're just gonna start dumping it. And for the time being, all I do is just kick it around just to see how much went in there. So probably do it another 2-3 more times just to make sure the whole thing's covered, so I can wet and mix it. Okay, so like I said, I wasn't gonna have you guys just watching us go back and forth, doing a repeat of breaking that whole block apart and dumping 2 more bowls of the cocoa husk in there. But I will show you the cocoa husk in the tank. So I did do 3 bowls of the cocoa husk, so that way I can cover it. I'm gonna get my sprayer. And that tank on the table, which I know popped up, all that stuff and that tank are gonna get cleared. And that's my blood python, which I'll give you guys a treat, and I'll show you at the end of the video my blood python. And sprayer I was talking about that I use to spray all their tanks to wet the substrate. Now, I'm not talking about I take it and I just spray inside their tank. I don't mist the tank. I make sure the water's warm. What I do is, with the sprayer, I spray it in the substrate and I start mixing it and wetting the substrate. And I do that through the whole tank, just wetting all the substrate. And then if anything, I'll wet some of their items to kind of just build the moisture. I'll wet their hides, so they need to have a hide on the cold side and the hot side, so that way they can pick and choose what to hide in so they can cool off and when they want to heat up. So they must have 2 hides in their tank. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as they could fit in it and it's covered, no holes, it's just covered on all sides that they can easily hide in and, in a sense, disappear from the world. But you want the 2 hides, and I'll sit there and I'll spray the inside of the hides to kind of give it moisture and build some humidity inside the hides. So that's just the start on what to have for the enclosure on substrate and humidity. Now, so now that I at least filled the sprayer, so we won't do that yet, but after speaking about substrate and hides and the level that their humidity should be at, how I told you about the latching on this tank. It's a good starter tank. It's great until they get to her size. Like I said, she's practically the length of the tank at this point, and at her girth, she looks so tiny in this tank. She doesn't look tiny. The tank looks tiny compared to her. But I also wanted, hi, no, there's no food. There's no food. So this is the Govee thermometer and hydrometer. So it will read the temperature and humidity. So as you can tell, the temperature is not at its most perfect setting. I mean, it's been, hi babies. I didn't realize you were that close to my finger. I almost booped you. Yeah, I almost booped you. I'm sorry. Hi. So the heat should be 88. I believe they say 86 to 88 at its best for the hot side. And then for the cold, it should sit around 77 for the cold side. So it's the same thing with her cold side. It's not at its greatest either. But right now, for her, she's been thriving. She's been doing great. of course, like I said, I mean, ever since I got her, she has had some stuck shed, so I've been helping her after a while with the humidity boxes and just amping it in that sense as I try to get better enclosure setting for her. But now she's gonna have the PVC tank, so hopefully things get better for you, right? Right? I'm just surprised she actually came out this far to say hi. Sometimes she eventually gets over it and she will hide away. But she's probably also looking for food and hoping that I have food for her. But that's in 2 more days. That's not today. So I am going to take out some of her decorations. Stop.
Sorry, Mommy.
Because I don't know how she's going to respond, so I want to leave her alone, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start taking out her stuff while being gentle with her. Trying to get out some of the... You want to check it out? Okay. Now this vine I will just deal with later. But what I'm going to do with her decorations is I am going to wash them before I put them into her new enclosure. So, yeah, baby. So, I'm going to use a sponge and the Dawn dish soap. So as I have mentioned, some people tend to use a certain chemical. I can't remember the chemicals that they spoke about that they were using, but some of them mentioned like vets use them to, you know, sanitize the place and clean. But I don't go through buying, you know, these chemicals and going through just to clean. Right now, I spot clean every week, every time they eat. And since I always check on all of them, if I see any white spots in the tanks, that's their pee. They're called urates. So I just start scooping them out with some Bounty, take out, you know, their little pee. And I can confidently say that she will poop every week, once a week after eating. So I will always check towards mid-week of her feeding schedule to see if she has pooped. And then I will clean it. So I spot clean every week for every single one of them. Blood pythons will be a whole nother conversation, because it's very different when it comes to their bathroom schedule, which is something new. Now you're on the back side, which is something new for me and has been interesting, but I've been learning from other people in the support groups. So these are all her decorations. And I'm gonna use a simple dish sponge. And no, it's not gonna be the same sponge I use for my dishes. It's their own separate sponge. And I'm gonna use the Dawn dish soap and just go through and do a quick spot clean of her, almost said theirs because I do it with all of them, with her decorations. And then we will come back together and set up her tank. Okay, now that I've washed those piles of decorations and I have her vine up there on top of her old tank, because I ended up finding her poop in the vine. I was wondering where her poop was. And then I'm taking this from one of the other snakes' tanks because I don't think he's really using it or enjoying anything that's open because he seems to stay in his hot side and stays hidden. So I am going to switch out this that I kept in his cold side, which is a Cubone skull. And I'm gonna put the Pokeball hide, which I will show, into his cold side and see if he prefers that more. But all the hides that you see, all the cute, interesting ones that you'll see in this video, we got from the West Virginia reptile show. And hopefully I can attend it in their last show of the year this year before the new year starts. But okay, so I am first going to mix this half of the tank. I didn't want to put any of the wet stuff on the top of this tank because I will show you what we're gonna do with the top to help keep and hold the humidity. But we're gonna use the sprayer. Oh! So with the thermometers, you want 2 of them. One for the cold side and one for the hot side. So you can maintain, not maintain, so you can watch, that's what I mean to say, what each side is doing, how high the temperature is, you know, the level of the humidity, so you know if you need to, you know, do anything with it, and if you need to touch up the humidity sooner than what you planned. But eventually you'll pick up a rhythm and see what you need to do. But all I do is I spray the substrate. And I'm practically gonna soak the coconut husk and soak it. And now I'm gonna mix the substrate so that way it's not just sitting on top, but it's throughout. After mixing, I'll just wet it again. Push some of that cocoa husk to the other side so I can spread it a little more. But as you could tell how handy this sprayer is, so that way it can help you just soak the substrate much quicker and easier, especially when you have, 5 of these big tanks. Even out and just flatten out her flooring. We're gonna start laying the stuff out. Just spritz that cocoa husk that I kicked over here. Now we'll start now the one thing with the PVC tanks is that they do not do very well with the suction cups. So as I go through, you'll just see me removing the suction cups from her decorations. Now, with their enclosures, they like, as I was saying, hiding places. So, of course, I don't have much right now for her, so I'll build up more on it. So at the time being, I'm using what I have currently for her. Because, of course, she's upgrading greatly from that little 40 gallon, which I don't know, could be a little more than half the size, but to something much more bigger. So we are, gonna do what we can with what we have for now. And then I'll grow from there with her. If I feel like she needs a little more, I'll get her more. But I do plan on, at the show this month, which is in Indiana, I do plan on trying to find her a little climbing branch, because she does like to move around and she investigates everything. So I'm going to try and get her a climbing branch, so she'll have a little extra to her. Okay, I think I got all the suction cups. So just to kind of give her some exploration, some places to go. She does have a wooden hut, which I'm probably gonna also buy her the same kind of massive hide that my other ball python has in his. I'll probably buy her a new one that's much bigger because she has a little simple wooden hut, unless they have a bigger wooden hut, but only because she's only gonna get bigger. So I'll probably get her something bigger. Now, kind of using my imagination here on decorating, because her hut will go in her hot side. She will have her water bowl over here in this corner. And then I do have, I won't even need to buy her any more plants. Probably just buy her a nice little climbing log. But let me get this hide that I washed. Okay, so this is a little log I was talking about. And then this is the other one that I said we got from West Virginia. And I'll stick this in her cold side. What I'm doing is just sticking the stems of some of the plants into the substrate, just burrowing it. So that way it's not sticking up and she can't like poke herself. I don't think it would harm them, but it's just what I want to do. I think all in all, that looks really cute for her. I am not gonna stick her in just yet. She'll feel a little naked at the moment in her current home, but the next thing I wanted to mention was about heating. Just gonna rinse my hand quickly. Okay, so with heating, I know I mentioned that the heating panel we installed was better. So here's just my train of thought on why. So of course, as you can tell, it's inside the enclosure. So the heat will be able to easily transfer into the enclosure and spread throughout and be able to build and maintain itself, compared to a heating lamp that will sit on top of a tank. Now, don't get me wrong, smaller tanks, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can buy bigger lamps for this size of a tank, and it might work. Again, it's all trial and error, and it's all based off of, you know, people's preference and what you have. They build shelves so that way if you have lamps for your enclosures, you can put a shelving and then stack your next tank, and you'll still have the space for your lighting if you have lamps on top. My blood python, which I will show you at the end, he has a lamp. So I actually do use a lamp. And it works perfect for him. I use a CHE, a ceramic heat emitter. And it sets his temperature perfect, which is completely different than what the ball python temperatures need to be. And currently, Nagini, she has a heating lamp. Same thing, I use a CHE bulb, but of course it wasn't getting the temperature to where it needed to be. I struggled, again, like I said, on trying to maintain it. And that's why, as I continue to grow, I was building and grabbing all my enclosures, and I just kept building every month. She still fit in there, so everything was still perfect with her. She's been eating, she sheds, haven't had issues with her sheds. Snakes can still get stuck shed, even if everything's, perfect. It can happen as long as you can get it off. Now again, I use a humidity box, and then I assist her. And I can definitely make a video about the humidity box and what I do with her. So she has been perfect, and as you can tell, growing beautifully. So now she's finally gonna get her beautiful home. But what I'm going to do, and I did this with both my tanks, I am going to show you on what I mean about covering to maintain your humidity and keeping it. So I did it with her tank, I did it with Drake's tank, my blood python, and I'm going to show you here on doing it for your tank. So I used to have 2 giant rolls of HVAC tape. This is my last one. With all the tanks I keep getting and changing, I've been running out of tape. But what I'm going to do is we are going to cover this mesh up here, so that way there's less holes and air to escape, which will maintain your humidity and maintain it longer because of the mesh topping. The other 2 who have the smaller 1 foot tall, there's no meshing. It's all PVC all around. So I don't have to worry about them. They do have vent holes, so there's slits to create airflow, but their humidity holds. And I don't have to tape anything because it's all PVC, no meshing. But with these, I had to tape them because I did learn off of hers that it helped with the humidity, and it even helped with the heat. But we are going to cover this whole meshing, but we are going to leave a little bit of spacing away from the heat panel. And it's just so that way you still have a space of airflow and a space for the heat. Even though a tank is going to go on top of this, I'm still gonna leave the spacing. And I'm still gonna cover it with HVAC because at the same time, I would hate to have to lift a whole nother tank off just to have to cover this and then put the tank back. I'd rather just cover it now. So I'm gonna start from in out just so it's easier to cut. And we are gonna start, I'll start from back here. And you want to make sure that the tape is over the metal, so that way you don't have a little slit or any spacing. So everything is just covered. cut it like so. And then again, you're gonna leave a little bit of spacing from the radiator. So, radiated heat panel. So the backing of it is around here where my finger is. So the tape, I will end it roughly there just to leave some spacing.
Don't move it. Don't do it. And then when you come here, you're gonna do the same thing. So if the panel ends here, we're gonna just start it lower to leave some spacing away from the panel.
Yeah.
And then all you're gonna do is the entire way around, we're gonna do this. And you wanna make sure the tapes overlap so you're not leaving spacing. Okay, so as you can tell, the tape is done. Can you show them the top? So this is what you want all around it, with a little bit of spacing around your panel. So now that that's complete, basically, tank is done. I forgot about her vine, so I'm just trying to lay it around. And then I forgot her. There's moss that you would normally put around their water bowl, which I had also cleaned here. So I'm gonna stick her water bowl up front here. I gotta get her a bigger bowl too. But the funny part is none of my snakes soak. None of them. God forbid I put them in a bowl for soaking. It's like all hell breaks loose. They just start scrambling and everything goes flying. Not even exaggerating. So I basically use that sprayer and give them a nice little soak. Because otherwise, if I try and stick them in a bowl,
not a pretty sight. Okay, so can't remember the specific brand name, but this is sphagnum moss. You can find it in pet stores. A lot of the reptile shows sell the sphagnum moss. It starts with an S, so it's SPHAGNUM. Yes, moss. So basically, some people use this in their substrate. I use it mostly around the water. Some people will create humidity hides with it and put it in the tank when it's close to shedding, or maybe it's all year round and they leave a humid hide right in the home. I don't do it. I just do it around the water bowl, and then I just make sure the humidity is on point. So what I do use the moss for in bedding is, if you've seen my video, is for my crested geckos. Gonna break it apart. And I'm just sticking it around her water bowl. We'll give you a closer look in a second. And then I wet the moss. I don't know if you can see it or not, but after it's wet, it's gotten darker, I just soak the moss, which is right around the bowl, and then I just flush it up against the bowl. And then of course I'll get some warm water and fill her water bowl. Now the water, I say warm water, but you want to make sure it's not hot. So you can use your wrist or your elbow, and those are good testing areas to make sure that the water is decent and, you know, warm, but not hot, and you know it'll be comfortable for your snake. Because another reason that they will spaz out, and not just because they don't like it and they don't want to soak, but you know, it could be too hot. You basically could be burning them. So, and I do the same thing with my sprayer where I do a quick touch and it's just warm enough, but nothing crazy. God. Give her a little sticker. Bring on her cake. Those also came from the West Virginia show, you know, in the little baggies that they were giving out. Now, oh, we gotta stick the thermometers. Funny part is these are labeled and I completely forgot. With these Govee thermometers, you can view it from your phone when you download the app. And you can keep an eye on your temperatures and humidity from your phone. But now I forgot which side was what side, so I'll discover that once I place her tank where it belongs. And we put Drake on top. Let's come over here and let's grab her. You can kind of see her poking out of her cold hide, wondering what just happened to her home. Because now it's all empty. Her investigate and go in. Okay, so after the brief little break, finally got her a little coaxed once I moved her in a little bit more with my hands and she went on her own. As you guys can finally see how long she is, this is why she needed her full-grown tank. And she's officially recognized, you know, all her items and finally gained the courage to kind of investigate and go in. I just didn't want to stress her out by just tossing her in there and saying, have a good day. Wanted her to go on her own. Obviously, I'm going to leave her be so she can investigate, check it out. But as you can see with how big she is, she needed this. And at her size, she's probably half the length of full grown. Ball pythons can get 6 feet. Some have even gotten longer, maybe. Could be exaggerating, but I think some people have said, oh, well, mine is 8. I think she is half so far her full-grown size. But she was my first baby. I got her in March on my birthday of this year. So she's gotten so big within a matter of just months. So I mean, imagine 40-gallon back in March when I got her to having to be in a full size tank now. So, I mean, you know, they can grow very fast if you take good care of them. But she's been the best. She's been happy. As you guys can see, she's very social. She came right up to the door. It's been a while since she's done that on her own. Usually she'll come to the door and then move away over it, but she came to the door this time very interested, and now she'll be having fun investigating everything. So
you know, there's many different preferences on what you can do for your enclosures. Of course, this is my preference. I love the dubios. You know, hopefully it'll be the same with her on how it holds up, just like my other ball pythons with the temperature and the humidity, and hopefully it can be the same for her. You know, the panel has been amazing and it's been working great. And you know, I'm not sure how big of a wattage you would need if you went with a bulb. That would be based on your experimentation. My blood python, just to get his temperature, I think he has a 100 watt CHE bulb. So you may need bigger, you know, more wattage to get a ball python's heat. But we are going to move her to her corner now that she's officially in and settled. So we're gonna move her to her corner so I can replug the heat in, and we can then wrap up the video with some touch-up points, and I will show you Drake, my blood python, a little treat. Okay, so during the break, we have now officially moved them. So now she's in her new home in the corner, and Drake is officially off our table and in his new home. So we won't need to move them. Now, just to wrap up everything, ball pythons, their needs, so the heat needs to be at most 88. 90 isn't gonna hurt if it reaches it. They do come from Africa, so obviously we can all imagine how hot it can get just in the wild. So 90 isn't gonna hurt. As it breaches anything higher, you know, you might wanna try and get anything to maintain that. Thermostats are great, which I'm gonna work on getting since we are leaving soon on vacation next month. So I'm gonna try and work on getting thermostats to maintain temps here, especially while we're away. So at least if anything were to happen, the thermostat can cut off the flow of electricity. So nothing can happen and it won't short circuit and overheat anything. So at least I won't have to be too concerned for them while away. But heat for the ball pythons, like I was saying, at most 88. On the hot side, 90. I know one of my girls, she gets to 90 and she loves it. Perfect shed every time. Still eats. I mean, she's my powerhouse eater. She will be out the door and flying out of her enclosure for the rat, which you'll see in a feed video. She is a powerhouse and loves, because her temp can get up to 90. We will be cleaning her enclosure together. So I will be making changes to hers. And then humidity up to mid 80s. The least 65, I believe it was. Could be confusing it with my geckos, but I think that's the minimum. And then the substrate. I personally mix the Rectobark from the pet stores and the cocoa husk, so it helps hold humidity. That's what I've been mixing, and it's been perfect for me and great. My other guys that I started doing that with love it. Actually, she also in her 40-gallon had started having that as well when I started using the cocoa husk. So it's been great with that. So that's what I use for substrate. Other people do different things, whether they do bioactive, you know, using soil, or cocoa husk only. I mean, There's so many different options. Don't use the fiber because it's very thin and it's easy for it to get stuck in their heat. You know, pockets, the nostrils, and it's very easy for them to ingest, especially when eating. So I would stay away from the fiber. That's my personal opinion. Everything's different and everyone has their own personal preferences. That's hot, be careful. As I mentioned, my blood python uses a heat lamp. So this is what you would personally use if you want to use heat lamps for your ball pythons. You may have to go bigger if you want to get your heat to, you know, the temps that it needs to get in your 4x2x2. His is a 100 watt CHE ceramic heat emitter bulb, and it gets his to the perfect temp, but is different from the blood python, meaning it's from the ball pythons, meaning his is lower than a ball python. Ball python's temperatures need to be higher than his. So that's why the 100 watt is perfect for him. You may need 120, 150, whatever the wattages are for a CHE. There's also the DHP, I believe it is. That's another kind of bulb. Basically, they don't give light, so it's not a basking bulb. So they only give heat, which is perfect because you want more heat and not so much as light. For light purposes, so you can get light, you can give UVB bulbs and put a UVB light in your tank. With that, it's not gonna hurt them. They don't need UVB. There's different things where people say they benefit from them, and some people say there's really no difference. So it's based off of preferences, whether you want to use a UVB, it doesn't make a difference. There's also just basic lighting and dimmer switch lighting. I'm forgetting the term for the lights I was gonna get off of the Black Box website. They also do enclosures, but you know, if you want to put the money out, they make great enclosures. I wanted one, but of course, money wise, I just didn't have the money to put out. But like I said, I'm perfectly satisfied with these. These are perfect and I swear by them. And I'm buying the light from the Black Box website, and their dimmer switch, I picked already the size and wattage I want for the lights, so I can install them in the tank, just so I can get light for when I go in there, so I don't have to keep using my phone light or a flashlight to look for my snakes. Hence what I'm about to have to do here, trying to look for my blood python. But you can buy simple lights to put in. If you're ever gonna install a light into your tank, whether it's the mesh or if it's all PVC, and you're gonna install the light inside your tank, you want to get a cage to put around the bulb, or your snake can come up to the bulb, wrap itself, burn itself, and get hurt. So you want to buy the light cage with your lighting if you were to install the bulbs into your tank. Now, you already saw me decorate. Make sure you just have tons of coverage where they can hide. That gives them enough enrichment as well. I plan on buying simple toys too, sticking in there. You want 2 hides, cold side, hot side, so they can pick. One to cool off in and they can still hide, and one on the hot side so they can stay in the heat but also stay hidden. The only bad part is trying to find my guy's head in here. He blends with the mulch.
of just showed me his. Okay. He kind of showed me his head as I slowly went for his body. So this is my blood python. We will have a whole video and conversation about them another time. But I thought he'd be a treat for you guys to kind of just see him and see the different snakes. But that's basically everything you would want to make sure you try and get for your ball python when you want to get one. So at least you can have everything together. When I bought my girl, like I said, I did a whole shopping spree and I did bulbs at the time. And now I've just been upgrading, and the more snakes I get, the different I do it, and I change everything. So everything has definitely been done differently. So, you know, you can do your research, make sure you know which way and which path you want to go, which one you want to take. So that way you can figure out, you know, what to get before you try and bring one home. Because you never want to harm your snake. And you can also do your research. What morphs would you like? Which will be another conversation, because I will definitely talk about all the different morphs. Because I definitely have 4 different morphs. And then he would make 5 because he's a blood python. So we will definitely have a lot of fun conversations through this channel and a lot of fun adventures. But as you could tell, he's tracking me. Very smart snake. But I thought you guys would be very interested to see my biggest one out of everyone. And we will definitely see you in the next one. Say bye, Drake.